47 brands of breakfast cereal, a pharmacy aisle so long it has its own weather system, and a man at the door who wants to check your shopping before you leave, like you're already a suspect. I used to think this was normal. I grew up with this. Then I spent 2 years living in New Zealand, walked back into an American Walmart, and felt like I'd stepped onto another planet. I was back in Ohio for my sister's wedding. Family stuff. I needed deodorant, a phone charger, and some snacks for the road. In New Zealand, that would be a 10-minute trip. Park outside the countdown, grab a basket, say hello to the checkout operator, done. But I wasn't in New Zealand. I was in America. And in America, you don't just pick up a few things. You commit to an expedition. I pulled into the Walmart parking lot. It took me 4 minutes to find a space, 4 minutes to park. I walked across a tarmac that felt like an airport runway, pushed through automatic doors that hissed open like an airlock, and stepped inside. And the first thing that hit me wasn't the size. It was the noise, the fluorescent hum, the beeping, the sheer sensory overload of a building that is somehow a supermarket, a pharmacy, a gun shop, a garden center, and a fast food restaurant, all under one roof, all screaming for your attention at the same time. I stood there in the entrance, holding an empty shopping basket, and I realized I had forgotten how to be American. Let me paint you a picture. A Walmart supercenter is roughly 180,000 square feet. That's about 7 times the size of your average New Zealand supermarket. You could fit a countdown, a warehouse, and a small primary school inside a Walmart, and still have room for a bowling alley. I needed 3 things: deodorant, a phone charger, and snacks. I looked at the sign hanging from the ceiling. The pharmacy was in one corner. Electronics was in another. Groceries were somewhere in the middle. To get everything I needed, I was going to have to walk roughly a kilometer. In New Zealand, I can do a full weekly shop in 12 minutes. In this Walmart, I was going to need a hydration strategy. I started walking, and that's when the real shocks began. Item 1. The receipt checker. I had been in the store for maybe 30 seconds when I passed the exit. Yes, the exit, right next to the entrance, and saw a man in a yellow vest stopping people. He wasn't saying goodbye. He was saying, "Can I see your receipt?" And people were handing them over. Like this was normal. Like this was polite. I stopped and watched. A woman with a trolley full of groceries. A family with 3 kids. An elderly man with a single bag of dog food. Every one of them paused at the door, dug through their pockets, and produced a strip of thermal paper to prove they hadn't stolen the thing they had just paid for. In New Zealand, when you buy something, the transaction ends with, "Have a good one, love," and you walk out the door. No barriers, no checks, no assumption that you might be a criminal. The default setting in a Kiwi shop is trust. The default setting in an American Walmart is suspicion, and they've built an entire job around it. I stood there, watching Americans prove their innocence at the exit door, and I thought, I used to do this. I used to think this was just part of shopping. Item 2. The cereal wall. I finally found the grocery section and I needed snacks. I turned down the cereal aisle and I stopped because in front of me was a wall of cereal that was, I'm not exaggerating, 15 meters long and 3 meters high. Kellogg's, General Mills, Post, store brand, organic, gluten-free, protein-packed, marshmallow infused. 47 distinct brands, each with 6 variations, each variation with 3 sizes. I counted. I actually stood there and counted. There were 2 different boxes of cereal in front of me, 112. In New Zealand, your average countdown has maybe 6 brands of cereal. Wheat Bix, cornflakes, muesli, something with berries. That's it. You make your choice in 8 seconds, and you move on with your life. But in Walmart, choice isn't a convenience. It's a weapon. I stood in front of that wall for 5 minutes, paralyzed by options, and I realized something. This isn't freedom. This is exhaustion disguised as freedom. New Zealand taught me that 6 good options are better than 100 options that make you want to lie down. I grabbed a box of Cheerios, and I ran. Item 3. The pharmacy aisle. I needed deodorant, which in New Zealand is in the supermarket, next to the toothpaste. In Walmart, it's in the pharmacy section, which is not a separate shop. It's just an aisle the size of a small aircraft hangar, filled with medication, supplements, and something that stopped me in my tracks. A television screen. Mounted to the shelf, playing an advertisement for a prescription drug. Ask your doctor about. drug name, it said. Side effects may include dizziness, nausea, and in rare cases, death. I looked around. There were more screens, more ads, more invitations to diagnose yourself, more encouragement to take something for your anxiety, your depression, your restless legs, your seasonal sadness, your inability to focus, your inability to sleep, your inability to stay awake. In New Zealand, you cannot advertise prescription medication to the public. It's illegal. Pharmacies are separate from supermarkets. The pharmacist is a professional who talks to you, not a shelf that screams at you. And the idea that you would walk into a shop to buy milk and be sold an antidepressant by a television screen is, to a Kiwi, genuinely dystopian. I stood in that aisle, listening to a cheerful voice list symptoms I didn't know I had, and I felt something I didn't expect. I felt sad because I used to think this was healthcare. Item 4. The self-checkout. I had my 3 items: cereal, deodorant, phone charger. I walked to the checkout area and I saw 20 self-checkout machines, 2 human operators, and a line of people staring at screens like they were defusing a bomb. I approached a machine. It scanned my first item. Then it froze. Unexpected item in bagging area. It said. I hadn't put anything in the bagging area yet. I looked up. There was a camera. There was a scale. There was a red light, and there was a woman in a booth watching a bank of monitors, waiting for someone to fail. In New Zealand, self-checkout exists, but it's not an interrogation. Most Kiwis still prefer a human being, and the human being usually asks how your day is, comments on the weather, and doesn't treat you like a potential thief. The checkout is a conversation. Here, it was a trial. I finally got my items through. The machine didn't say, "Have a good one." It didn't say anything. It just printed a receipt, which I would now need to prove my innocence at the door. Item 5. The parking lot. I left the store, handed over my receipt. I walked back across the tarmac. Another 4 minutes, and I sat in my car. I looked at the building behind me. It was massive. It was efficient. It had everything you could ever need inside it, and I realized the thing that scared me most wasn't inside the store. It was outside. It was the fact that everyone in that building had driven there, that the parking lot was bigger than the shop, that you couldn't walk to this place, that you couldn't bike there, that the entire system was built around isolation, isolated homes, isolated cars, isolated shopping, isolated lives, all connected by asphalt and fluorescent light. In New Zealand, I walk to my local dairy. I know the owner. I buy a pie. I chat about the rugby. The whole interaction takes 6 minutes, and I never get in a car. In America, I had just spent 45 minutes driving, parking, walking, scanning, proving my innocence, and driving home just to buy 3 things. And I used to think that was normal. I sat in that car for a long time. Not because I was tired. Because I was confused. I grew up in this country. I loved this country. And I still do. But sitting in that parking lot, holding a bag of cereal and a receipt that certified my honesty, I understood something that New Zealand had been teaching me without me realizing it. It's not that America is bad and New Zealand is good. It's not that simple. It's that America has built a machine designed to give you everything. Every product, every choice, every convenience, and in exchange, it takes something you don't notice until it's gone. It takes your time. It takes your trust. It takes the human moment at the checkout counter. It takes the assumption that you're a good person, until you prove otherwise. New Zealand doesn't give you everything. The shops are smaller. The choices are fewer. The hours are shorter, but what New Zealand gives you back is something I didn't know I was missing. The feeling that commerce can still be human, that a shop can be a community, that you can buy a pie from someone who knows your name and walk out the door without proving you didn't steal it. I started the car. I drove back to my sister's house, and I thought, I used to think Walmart was the future. Now I know it's just one version of it. And I've seen another. I didn't make this video to bash America. I made it because I needed to understand what had changed in me. I needed to put words to the feeling that hit me when I walked back into a world I used to think was the only one. New Zealand didn't make me hate America. New Zealand made me see America clearly. And seeing something clearly, really clearly for the first time, is always a shock. I saw a system built on scale, suspicion, and simulated choice, and I saw what happens when you build a system on trust, simplicity, and human scale instead. Neither is perfect, but one of them feels like shopping, and the other feels like survival. So that's what living in New Zealand made me notice first at an American Walmart. The receipt checks, the cereal walls, the pharmacy screens, the silent machines, and the parking lot that felt like a metaphor for everything else. If you've ever moved somewhere and then gone home and seen your old world with new eyes, drop a comment. I want to know what shocked you. And if you want to see what else New Zealand has rewired in my brain, hit subscribe. Next week, I'm taking my American brother to a Kiwi shearing shed. He brought his phone. He didn't use it once. Until then, this is Kiwiverse. See you next Friday.